Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi for March 3rd, 2025, Monday. So Sanhedrin 76. Let's see here. What is notable about her relatives? They are notable in that one who engages in intercourse with the mother of his wife is liable to be executed by the more severe punishment of burning. Will you then say that there is a prohibition with regard to his relatives, where one who engages in intercourse with his mother is liable to be executed by the less severe punishment of stoning? And furthermore, one must say that the status of his relatives is like the status of her relatives. And just as with regard to her relatives, you did not distinguish between her daughter and the mother of her mother, and one who engages in intercourse with either is executed by burning, so too with regard to his relatives, you should not distinguish between his daughter and the mother of his mother, and he should receive the same punishment for engaging in intercourse with either, since one who engages in intercourse with the mother of his mother is executed by stoning, and one who engages in intercourse with his daughter is executed by burning. The parallel between his relatives and her relatives is incomplete, and the prohibition cannot be derived. The Gemara continues, and according to the one who says that stoning is more severe than burning, due to this third difficulty, the fact that intercourse with the mother of his mother is forbidden, this halacha is not derived, as the parallel between his relatives and her relatives is incomplete. The Gemara asks, if a parallel is drawn between his relatives and the relatives of his wife with regard to the prohibition, just as with regard to his relatives, his daughter-in-law is forbidden to him, so too with regard to her relatives, her daughter-in-law is prohibited to him. Abaye says, this is not so, as the verse states, you should not expose the nakedness of your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. You should not expose her nakedness. Leviticus 18, verse 15. Due to his intercourse with the wife of his son, you deem him liable to be executed, but you do not deem him liable to be executed due to his intercourse with the wife of the son of his wife. Rava says that derivation is unnecessary, as with regard to the method of derivation by means of a verbal analogy, both according to one who says, infer the halacha from it and derive the details from it, and according to the one who says infer the halacha from it but interpret the halacha according to its own place, it is not derived that intercourse with one's wife's daughter-in-law renders him liable to be executed. The Gemara elaborates. According to the one who says, infer the halacha from it and derive the details from it, one might infer, just as with regard to his relatives, his daughter-in-law is forbidden to him, so too with regard to her relatives, her daughter-in-law is forbidden to him. And derive again from it, just as with regard to his relatives, he is liable to be executed by stoning due to his intercourse with his daughter-in-law, so too with regard to her relatives, he is also liable to be executed by stoning due to his intercourse with her daughter-in-law. The Gemara proceeds to explain why this is not a valid derivation. According to one who says, execution by stoning is more severe than execution by burning, the inference can be refuted. What is notable about his relatives? They are notable in that one who engages in intercourse with his mother is liable to be executed by the more severe punishment of stoning. Will you then say that the same is true with regard to her relatives, where one who engages in intercourse with her mother is liable to be executed by the less severe punishment of burning? And furthermore, one who engages in intercourse with the daughter of his wife is executed by the less severe punishment of burning. Is it possible that one who engages in intercourse with the daughter-in-law of his wife is a more distant relative, is executed by the more severe punishment of stoning? The Gemara rejects that refutation. He himself, with regard to his own relatives, will prove that if it is in fact possible, one who engages in intercourse with his daughter is executed by burning, and one who engages in intercourse with his daughter-in-law is executed by stoning. Rather, just as with regard to his relatives, you do not distinguish between his mother and his daughter-in-law, and one who engages in intercourse with either is executed by stoning, so too with regard to her relatives, you should not distinguish between her mother and her daughter-in-law. Since one who engages in intercourse with the mother of his wife is executed by stoning, apparently one who engages in intercourse with her daughter-in-law is executed by burning, not stoning. Therefore, the parallel between his relatives and her relatives is incomplete, and the prohibition cannot be derived. And according to the one who says that burning is more severe than stoning, although the refutations based on the fact that execution by stoning is more severe are not relevant, due to this difficulty, this halacha is not derived. And according to one who says, infer the halacha from it, but interpret the halacha according to its own place, one might infer, just as with regard to his relatives, his daughter-in-law is forbidden to him, so too with regard to her relatives, her daughter-in-law is forbidden to him. And interpret the halacha according to its own place. It is there, with regard to his relatives, the one who engages in intercourse with his daughter-in-law is executed by stoning, but here, with regard to her relatives, one who engages in intercourse with her daughter-in-law is executed by burning, as we found that this is the punishment with regard to one who engages in intercourse with her mother. The Gemara proceeds to explain why this is not a valid derivation. According to the one who says execution by stoning is more severe than execution by burning, the inference can be refuted. What is notable about his relatives? They are notable in that one who engages in intercourse with his mother is liable to be executed by the more severe punishment of stoning. Will you then say that the same is true with regard to her relatives, where one who engages in intercourse with her mother is liable to be executed by the less severe punishment of burning? And furthermore, just as with regard to his relatives, you distinguish between his daughter and his daughter-in-law, and one who engages in intercourse with his daughter is executed by burning, while one who engages in intercourse with his daughter-in-law is executed by stoning, so too with regard to her relatives, distinguish between her daughter and her daughter-in-law. This is contrary to the parallel drawn between his relatives and her relatives, and the halacha cannot be derived. And according to the one who says that burning is more severe than stoning, although the refutations based on the fact that execution by stoning is more severe are not relevant, due to this later difficulty, this halacha is not derived. Throughout, it is clear from the Gemara, the one who engages in intercourse with his daughter is executed by burning. The Gemara asks, with regard to one's daughter, born from a woman whom he raped, from where is it derived that she is forbidden to him? The Gemara answers, doesn't Abaye say that this is inferred a fortiori? If one is punished for engaging in intercourse with the daughter of his daughter, for engaging in intercourse with his daughter, is it not all the more so that he is punished? The Gemara asks, but does the court administer punishment based on an a fortiori inference without an explicit source? The Gemara replies, this is mere disclosure of the matter, not a derivation by means of inference. Presumably, the punishment administered to one who engages in intercourse with the daughter of his daughter stems from the kinship with his daughter. When the verse states with regard to the daughter of his daughter, for theirs is your own nakedness, Leviticus 18 verse 10, his daughter is included. Rabba says, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi said to me that the prohibition of engaging in intercourse with one's daughter, who is not the daughter of his wife, is derived by means of a verbal analogy between the word henna, written with regard to the descendants, the nakedness of your, quote, the nakedness of your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, even their nakedness you should not uncover, for theirs, meaning henna, is your own nakedness, Leviticus 18 verse 10. And the word henna, written with regard to the descendants of his wife, quote, you should not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, you should not take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter, to uncover her nakedness. Henna, that's they, are near kinswomen, it is lewdness. Leviticus 18 verse 17. Then it is derived from a verbal analogy between the word lewdness, zima, Leviticus 18 verse 17, and the word lewdness, zima, in the verse, quote, and if a man takes a woman and her mother, it is lewdness, zima, they shall be burned with both fire, so fire both him and them, and there shall be no lewdness among you. Leviticus 20, verse 14. The father of Rabbi Avin teaches, due to the fact that we did not learn a punishment for one who engages in intercourse with his daughter, born from a woman whom he raped, from an explicit verse in the Torah, it was necessary for the verse to state, and if the daughter of any priest profanes herself by acting licentiously, it is her father, et aviha, whom she is profaning. She shall be burned with fire. Leviticus 21, verse 9. The verse can be interpreted, and if the daughter of any priest profanes herself by acting licentiously with her father, et aviha, she shall be burned with fire. The Gemara asks, if so, why not say that just as in the case of the daughter of a priest who commits adultery, she is executed by burning, but her paramour is executed by strangulation, not by burning, so too in the case of one who engages in intercourse with his daughter born from a woman whom he raped, she is executed by burning, but her paramour, that is her father, is executed by other means and not by burning. Abaye says that the verse states, quote, it is her father whom she is profaning, from which it is referring that one who profanes her father by acting licentiously is executed with a court-imposed death penalty different from the death penalty imposed upon her paramour. Excluded from that halacha is this case of a daughter whose father engaged in intercourse with her, where it is her father who profanes her. Rava says, granted, there, in the case of the daughter of a priest who committed adultery, based on the inference, you excluded the paramour from the punishment of the daughter of a priest executed by burning, and you established this punishment to correspond with the punishment of an adulterous Israelite woman who is executed by strangulation. But here, in the case of one who engages in intercourse with his daughter, to correspond with whose punishment do you establish the father's punishment? The Torah does not state any other form of execution in that case. Will you establish his punishment to correspond with the punishment of an unmarried woman who engages in intercourse, who is not liable to be executed at all? Therefore, there is no alternative to the conclusion that the father too is executed by burning. The Gemara asks, from where is the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with his daughter born from a woman whom he raped derived? Granted, according to Abaye and Rava, who respectively derived the punishment a fortiori, or by means of a verbal analogy, from the same source from which they derived the punishment, from there they derive the prohibition as well, as the source includes a prohibition. But according to that which Rabbi Avin's father teaches, that the punishment is derived from the verse written with regard to the daughter of a priest, what is the source for the prohibition? Rabbi Elias says that the prohibition is derived from a verse, as the verse states, quote, do not profane your daughter by causing her to act licentiously, lahaz nota, lest the land falls into licentiousness and the land becomes full of lewdness. Leviticus 19, verse 29, from which it is derived that one may not engage in intercourse with his daughter. Okay, so Rabbi Yaakov, brother of Rav Acha bar Yaakov, objects to this. Does this verse, quote, do not profane your daughter by causing her to act licentiously, come to teach that halacha? This verse is necessary to derive that which is taught in the Braita. With regard to the verse, quote, do not profane your daughter by causing her to act licentiously, one might have thought that it is with regard to a priest who marries his daughter to a Levite or Israelite that the verse is speaking, since marrying an Israelite disqualifies her from partaking of teruma. To counter this, the verse states, by causing her to act licentiously, indicating that it is with regard to profaning that involves licentiousness that the verse is speaking. The reference is to one who gives his daughter to a man for the purpose of intercourse that is not for the sake of marriage. The Gemara answers, if so, that is the sole derivation from the verse. Let the verse say, do not profane, so tahel. What is the reason that the verse uses the more complex form, do not profane, tehalel? Conclude two derivations from it. The Gemara asks, and according to Abaye and Rava, who derived the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's daughter from a different source, what do they do with this verse? Quote, do not profane your daughter by causing her to act licentiously. Rabbi Mani says, this verse is referring to one who marries his daughter to an old man. Since she will not be satisfied with him, it will ultimately lead her to engage in idolatry, and her father is responsible for causing that situation. This derivation is as it is taught in the Braita. Do not profane your daughter by causing her to act licentiously. So Rabbi Eliezer says, this is referring to one who marries his daughter to an old man. Rabbi Akiva says, this is referring to one who delays marriage of his daughter who is a grown woman. Since she finds no permissible outlet for her desire, she is apt to engage in licentiousness. So Rav Kahana says in the name of Rabbi Akiva, you do not have a pauper among the Jewish people other than one who is conniving, wicked person who seeks to conceal his true nature, and one who delays the marriage of his daughter who is a grown woman. The Gemara asked, is that to say the one who delays the marriage of his daughter who is a grown woman is not a conniving, wicked person? He connives to delay her marriage to ensure that she will stay at home and do the housework, sparing him the cost of domestic help, and thereby causes her to sin. Abaye says, this is what Rav Kahana is saying. Who is a pauper who, due to his poverty, becomes a conniving and wicked person? This is one who delays the marriage of his daughter, who is a grown woman. And Rav Kahana says in the name of Rabbi Akiva, beware of one who advises you to his own interest, as he is likely motivated by personal gain. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, one who marries his daughter to an old man, and one who takes a wife for his minor son, and one who returns a lost item to a Gentile, are all individuals who are the cause of sin. Marriage to an old woman or a minor leaves the woman unsatisfied and is apt to lead to licentiousness. One who returns lost property to Gentiles adds to the property that they stole from Jews. So with regard to each of them, the verse states, lest there should be among you a man or a woman whose heart turns away this day from the Lord, saying, I will have peace, even though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart. That the quenched shall be added to the thirsty. The Lord will not be willing to pardon him. And the Gentile there is Nochri. So Deuteronomy 29:17-19. The Gemara raises an objection to one element of the ruling of Rav from a Braita. One who loves his wife as he loves himself, and who deems her as giving her clothing and jewelry more than he esteems himself, and one who instructs his sons and daughters to follow an upright path, and who marries them to appropriate spouses adjacent to their reaching puberty, ensures that his home will be devoid of quarrel and sin. Concerning him the verse states, and you shall know that your tent is in peace, and you shall visit your habitation and shall miss nothing. Job 5:24. The Baraita indicates that it is a mitzvah to marry one's children to appropriate spouses while they are young, contrary to the statement of Rav, the one who takes a wife for his minor son causes sin. The Gemara replies, adjacent to their reaching puberty is different from marrying her to a minor, as there is no concern that his daughter will sin during the brief period until her husband reaches puberty. The sages taught, one who loves his neighbors, and one who brings his relatives close, and one who marries the daughter of a sister, an example of a woman that he knows and likes before taking her as his wife, and one who lends a selah to a poor man at his time of need, when he has no alternative source of funds. With regard to each of them, the verse states, quote, break your bread for the hungry, and the poor that are cast out bring to your house. And when you see the naked, you shall clothe him, and hide not yourself from your own flesh, etc. Then they shall call, and the Lord will answer, and you shall cry, and he will say, here I am. Isaiah 58:7-9. The sages taught with regard to the verse, and if a man takes a woman and her mother, it is lewdness. They shall be burned with fire, both him and them, and there shall be no lewdness among you. Leviticus 20:14. What is the meaning of both him and them? It means him and one of them. As one woman is his wife, he is liable for engaging in intercourse with the other woman. This is the statement of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva says it means him and the two of them. The Gemara asks, what is the difference between them? Clearly, Rabbi Akiva does not hold that his wife is punished when he engages in intercourse with her relative. Abaye says the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael is with regard to the interpretation of the meaning of the verse. Rabbi Yishmael holds that the term both him and them, eten, means him and one of them, as in the Greek language one calls the number one hena. The prohibition of the verse is with regard to one who engages in intercourse with the mother of his wife, and the prohibition of engaging in intercourse with the mother of his mother-in-law is derived through an interpretation of the verses and is not written explicitly in the Torah. Rabbi Akiva holds that the term both him and them mean him and both of them. The prohibition in the verse is with regard to one who engages in intercourse with his mother-in-law, and the prohibition for engaging in intercourse with the mother of his mother-in-law is also written here explicitly. Rava says, Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva agree that the prohibition with regard to the mother of his mother-in-law is derived through interpretation, and the difference between them is with regard to one who engages in intercourse with his mother-in-law after the death of his wife. Rabbi Yishmael holds that one who engages in intercourse with his mother-in-law after the death of his wife is executed by burning. The verse indicates both him and one of them, meaning that he is liable to be executed by burning, even if only one of the pair of his wife and mother-in-law is alive. That is, when his wife is deceased and he engages in intercourse with his mother-in-law. And Rabbi Akiva maintains that in that case, one violates a mere prohibition and is not liable to be executed. New Mishnah. It says, the Mishnah says, and these are the transgressors who are killed by decapitation in the implementation of the court-imposed death penalty. That is, a murderer, the residents of an idolatrous city, and all whom engaged in idol worship. The Mishnah elaborates, in the case of a murderer who struck another with a stone or with iron, or held him in the water or in fire, and the victim could not extricate himself from there, and he died, the murderer is liable to be executed. So if one pushed another into the water or into fire, and that person could have extricated himself from there but failed to do so, and he died, the one who pushed him is exempt from punishment by a court, as he caused the death but did not actually kill the victim. For the same reason, if one set a dog against another, and a dog killed him, or if one set a snake against another and the snake killed him, and one who set the dog or the snake is exempt from punishment. If he embedded the snake's fangs into another and caused the snake to bite him and kill him, Rabbi Yehuda deems him liable to be executed, as he is a murderer, and the rabbis exempt him, so that's the majority, as they maintain that he indirectly caused the individual's death. So the Gemara says, the verses state with regard to a murderer, quote, and if he struck him with a stone in hand, by which a man may die, etc., or if he struck him with an instrument of wood in hand, by which a man may die, and he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. Numbers 35:17-18. The term in hand indicates that one is liable for murder only if he utilized a stone or a wooden instrument that was at least a certain measure. Shmuel says, for what reason was the term in hand not stated with regard to the iron instrument, as it is written, but if he struck him with an instrument of iron so that he died? Numbers 35:16. The reason is that an iron instrument of any size kills. It is also taught in a Braita. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, it is revealed and known before he who spoke in the world came into being that an iron instrument of any size kills. Therefore, the Torah did not provide a measure for it. The Gemara comments, and this statement applies only when the murderer stabbed him with an iron implement. But in a case where the murderer struck another with an iron instrument, he is liable only if the instrument was at least a certain measure capable of causing death. The Mishnah teaches, quote, or held him in the water, and that other person died, the murderer is liable. The Gemara comments, the first clause of the Mishnah teaches us a novel element, and the latter clause of the Mishnah teaches us a novel element. The first clause teaches us a novel element, even though it was not he who pushed the individual into the water. Since he held the victim and the victim could not extricate himself from there and he died, the one who held him in the water is liable to be executed. The latter clause teaches us a novel element, even though he pushed the individual into the water. Since the victim could have extricated himself from there, but failed to do so and he died, the one who pushed him is exempt from punishment. So the Gemara asks, from where do we derive that one who held another in the water is liable to be executed? Shmuel says, it is derived from a verse, as the verse states, quote, or in enmity he struck him with his hand and he died, and the assailant shall be put to death, he is a murderer. Numbers 35:21. The phrase, or in enmity, serves to include one who confines another in a place where he cannot survive. There was a certain man who confined the animal of another in a place in the sun, and it died from exposure to the sun. So Ravina deemed the man liable to recompense the owner as though his action caused the death of the animal. Rav Acha bar Rav deemed him exempt from recompensing the owner, as it was not his action that caused the death of the animal. The Gemara elaborates. Ravina deemed him liable to recompense the owner, and he derived it by means of an a-for to or inference. Just as with regard to a murderer, where the Torah did not render the legal status of one who kills unwittingly, who is exiled, like that of one who kills intentionally, who is executed, and did not render the status of one who kills due to circumstances beyond his control, who is exempt from punishment, like that of one who kills with intent, who is liable. Nevertheless, the Torah rendered one who confines another in a place where he cannot survive liable to be executed, even though he did not perform an action. And that is the end of 76.